The question I really want to ask is, how much different would the university system be if it were actually trying to help students instead of merely judging them, instead of sifting them? If higher education in both high school and university, if it existed to actually try to create capacity in the students, create the competence to do things in the students, if that was their goal, if that were their highest priority, instead of judging them and assigning them a numbered grade, working from the premise that the institution creates opportunities, which is, of course, only one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that they constrain opportunities. The news today being reported by the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, just in the last few hours, is that a new system will assign bonus points, will assign higher scores, will give higher grades to student applicants, reflecting the poverty of the neighborhood they grew up in. Now, all students are unequal. And there's a huge question in education. I've even been asked this in job interviews lately. Education for small children, high school students, university students. There's a question of how the educator and how the institution will genuinely help students who begin at different levels of ability so that they can finish with sufficient, if not equal, competence. This is most extreme and most easily demonstrated in language education. I read the autobiography of a refugee from Myanmar who managed to go to university in England, in the United Kingdom. So obviously he had a disadvantaged background. He grew up in Myanmar and then he became a refugee. He had to run away and live in the jungle and ran away to a refugee camp. This is his story. And obviously also his ability in English was not equal to students in England who spoke English as their first language. I think English was maybe his third language, having spoken two different languages in Burma, now called Myanmar. How would you help this student? Is the way to help this student giving him a higher score, giving him a higher grade because of his disadvantageous background, his childhood in poverty, coming from a refugee camp? No. Not if the purpose of education is to actually create competence, actually to give this kid the ability to do real things for the rest of his life. In this case, the guy was actually a major in English literature. Now, in his autobiography, this particular guy, his name is Pascal Couttet. In his autobiography, he notes that he would not have been able to complete his university education without a special intervention from a tutor. This is tutor in a very formal sense, really a supervisor, I guess you'd say, who wrote a letter saying, look, this kid is smart, this kid is talented, but obviously he does not have the level of ability in the English language to do this at the same speed as the other students. So in his case, what you want to do is lower the requirement for the number of courses being taken simultaneously, right? Most universities have this. You have to take 8 courses simultaneously, or maybe 4 courses per semester, whatever it is. There's some minimum number of courses you have to take at the same time. I said, look, for this kid, if he's really going to do all this reading in English, he can't read as quickly as the native speakers in English. So in his case, bring it down to a lower number of courses and give him extra hours of tutoring and assistance, and then he's going to be able to do it. He's going to be able to succeed. And he did. That's what happened. Okay? But you see, that's actually helping the student. And it takes time and consideration and effort and resources on the part of the professor. Now, let's say in theory, we're talking about students from poor, disadvantaged neighborhoods in the United States who went to a bad high school, and they have very, very limited ability in chemistry. Maybe their high school didn't teach chemistry at all, or it was just awful. It was just an absolutely terrible high school level education in chemistry. And then they want to go to university, and they have to take a number of chemistry courses because they want to be a doctor, they want to be a nurse, they want to be a dentist. Let's even say they want to be a chemical engineer, whatever. That's the field they want to go into. But their high school has prepared them very poorly. Does it help them to boost their score, to give them a higher grade, in the entrance exam through this new system they've unrolled, the adversity score, recognizing their hardship, to let them in to the course? Say, well, given your poverty, given the neighborhood, we're going to pretend that you're competent in chemistry. We're going to pretend that you have a level of ability in chemistry high enough to succeed in this course when you don't. Well, bad news. Now you've been led into the university. You've been led into the chemistry course for the medical program or the chemical engineering program, whatever your major is. You've been given access. You've been, quote unquote, given the opportunity. But now you're going to sink. You're not going to swim, or you're going to have to work 10 times as hard as all the other students because you're starting from a different mark. You're not starting from the same starting line, and you're racing to get to the same finish line. And you're expected to compete and to be assigned a grade, and for that grade to sit on your permanent record and determine your fate for the rest of your life. So what does the system exist for? Is it just to judge you? Is it like judging your soul as if you're born with an innate ability to do chemistry, and that's all they want to evaluate? Or is it actually here to help you? Is it actually here to build your capacity? One of the very simplest changes for these institutions that wouldn't require assigning more teachers or more quality face-to-face time between professors and students, which there's almost none of. One of the easiest ways they could change this would be allowing students to take the same course twice. Okay? If you went to a bad high school, you don't really have the background in chemistry you need to do university-level chemistry. Do the course twice. Take the whole course. Maybe you get a C-, maybe you get a D, whatever it is, and then the university can say, okay, do it again. All of us, I think I could say, even if you're naturally brilliant and gifted in chemistry, if you did the same chemistry course twice, I think you would learn more, you'd gain more capacity, more ability. You'd probably memorize more of the text. You'd practice more. You'd come out at a higher level of ability than if you just did the course once. But if you started at a real disadvantage where you were struggling to learn the vocabulary and the keywords and struggling to do the equations, struggling to do this stuff, and then you're given a chance to do it again, that could be a really positive thing that would change the whole rest of your life. We've mentioned a few times on this channel that my girlfriend, who didn't grow up quote-unquote disadvantaged, her father was a successful businessman. They had a house and 2 cars, They reached the American suburban middle class ideal lifestyle in the greater Detroit area in Michigan. Her whole life was really ruined for a decade because she had one bad experience with one chemistry course at one university. And she knows if she had just taken the same chemistry course at another university, the way they test, the way they teach, the number of students per class, the actual format for the exams, it would have been much better for her at the university down the street than as it happened in the university she was enrolled in. I could tell stories like that out of my own experience too. But in this system, you get one chance, sink or swim. And the type of disadvantages and advantages people have are not always going to show up on these forms, right? Like whether or not you really grew up speaking English, whether or not you grew up speaking the language being studied. At University of Victoria, I took the level 1 Japanese class. There was a lot wrong with the Japanese class. This is Japanese language. The class started being a certain length, which I guess would have been 3.5 months. And then they cut it in half to make it an intensive course. And then they cut it in half again to make it an intensive summer course. So this was supposed to be like 4 months of learning in only a couple of weeks. And this is with memorizing a huge amount of vocabulary, which in Japanese includes very complex brushstroke patterns. Okay, and what do you know? Everyone who did well in that class either 1, was ethnically Japanese, or 2, was ethnically Chinese. Even though Chinese is a very different language, you have a huge advantage starting a level 1 Japanese course if you're already completely fluent in Chinese. Tushuguan becomes Toshogan. And Toshogan is written absolutely identically, brushstroke for brushstroke, with Tushuguan. So, it's not an even playing field. And I talked about this with the professor. I talked about this with several professors. I said, look, so I think I was like 36 years old at the time. It's like, look, I'm older than these other students. I've studied like 8 languages or something. I'm an incredibly disciplined student of languages with a lot of experience. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. and studying for hours before I come to class. And I can't do this. I can't succeed. And I remember once the professor said to me, oh, but look at Amy. Amy's doing great. I said, Amy's mother is Japanese. She literally grew up singing karaoke in Japanese. Yes, she's doing great. The point is, someone who starts with 0 ability in Japanese, which is what the course was listed for, can't succeed in this course. Here's the thing. At the end of the course, I requested to take the same course again. It's like, look, I don't know this material. I only had like 3 weeks to learn this material instead of like 3.5 months. So I need the opportunity to take this course again. And I said, if I can't take it again, if I can't actually change my grade, do the course again and do better, then let me audit the course. Let me take the course without getting a grade. So because how can I continue? How can my career continue when I haven't learned what's in the level 1 Japanese course? This completely sets me up to fail in the level 2 Japanese course in the rest of my life, the rest of my career. And I was told, absolutely not, because the system doesn't exist to help people. It doesn't exist to actually build capacity in the students. And most real capacity can be objectively verified. Like, can you speak Japanese or not? Do you know this material or not? Can you do this equation involving chemistry or not? You know, if you raise my grade because of my adversity, that course, they could have done that. They could have said, okay, everyone who's fluent in Chinese as your first language, we're going to lower your grade by 10%. Everyone who grew up, if your mom was Japanese, we're going to lower your grade by 20%. And you people, people who actually speak English and came to this class with no prior ability in Japanese, we're going to raise your grade by some. You could do that. You could do that. That would be like this new SAT adversity score system, right? But that won't change the inequality in your actual capacity, your actual ability to speak English, read and understand Japanese, do chemical engineering, whatever it is that you're supposed to be actually teaching. So I know it doesn't sound terribly theoretically sophisticated. It's not. But there's actually a paradigm shift that would transform the whole system if its focus and purpose were creating ability in the students and we're not, quote unquote, creating opportunity and at the same time constraining opportunity by the assignation of grades.